Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon. Oops. Sorry, I apologize. That was technical difficulty. Welcome to Morgan Rees, live speaker, and also an author and a podcast host of Good Morning Black People. So check me out on YouTube. So this is my channel. So tonight's message, guys, I'm going to give you a disclaimer. It's going to get raw. It's going to get real. I'm going to tell you my journey as a survivor of domestic violence for 17 years. Before I begin, I want to ask you to do 3 things for me. If this message speaks to you, please like this live stream, subscribe to my channel, and share it with someone who may need hope. Tonight's message is called, I survived 17 years of domestic violence. God had other plans. I'm going to repeat that for y'all one more again. For the people in the back of the church, the back of the building, down the street, over there. I survived 17 years of domestic violence. God had other plans. This is more than my testimony. This is a story of how God met me in one of the most darkest seasons of my life, in my 20s, and proved that what tried to destroy me did not have the final word. My prayer tonight is that if you're hurting, if you're in an abusive relationship, if you survived trauma, or if you're wondering whether God still has a purpose for your life, if he hears you, if he's been listening to you, if he's been watching you, I want to let you know that he does. I am a great example of him hearing, him seeing, but he was also waiting for me to know my worth and my value. See, people see the smile today. They see this author. They see the live speaker. They see a speaker. They see a podcast host. But they don't see and they don't know what it took to get me here. If you're joining me tonight, welcome. Tonight, I'm sharing my testimony of surviving 17 years of domestic violence and how God brought me healing and purpose into my life. So this was back in June of 1996. As I shared in another message I did with y'all a while back, I shared how God, I met this man in a non-traditional way, if that makes sense. I met him in a situation where maybe I should have walked away. And believe it or not, when I met him, I didn't see him in the manner that we ended up getting together. And, as they say, through your mess, God gives you a blessing. And so when we met, the first, I guess we didn't want to say red flags. So, nowadays, we're all using the word red flags in our messages, in our testimonies, in our stories. And I want to tell you guys, God be having jokes. God be having jokes, guys. God be having jokes. I was receiving all of the red flags in the first 30 days. People who know me know I have a big heart. I have a good heart. I try to anyway, unless I feel that, eventually you're taking advantage of me or you're mistreating me or you're misusing me. And so growing up, when I met this man, I had very low self-esteem. I had very, very low self-value, very low self-worth. I come from a family who all my life I have been abused, whether it was mentally, emotionally, child abuse, sexual assault, any type of abuse, you name it, Morgan dealt with it. And before I met this man, I was actually in love with another man. And I was still wanting to be with my oldest daughter's dad. But he didn't see my worth. You hear what I said? He didn't see my worth, even though we had a child together. He didn't see my value. All thing he seen me was what I was worth in the bed. We're keeping it real right now. Just want to give a disclaimer that you may hear some things that's going to be appropriate, but it may be inappropriate unless your child or a child who experienced this during that season, during that journey. So when I met him, the same night I met him, we were out, me, him, another family member of his, and a young lady who I thought was my friend at the time. And so I had one of these kind of vehicles, guys. I had a 1991 Ford Tempo. It was my very first car at 16 years old, and I'm trying to hold on to this car. And actually, oh yes, before I even go any further, my prayers is out to my family in Arch Homes in West Philly, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 55th and Vine, 56 and Arch, Roger Street. I know that storm came through. Believe it or not, that's where I met my ex-husband at. I was living in those projects. I was living in Philadelphia Housing Authority in that community. So my prayers is going out to all of you. So let's go back to my testimony, my story. So this particular vehicle that I had, I could used to be able to take the key out of the vehicle and keep the vehicle running. And I had a lot of cash back then. Believe it or not, my when I went back to go visit the young lady who's my friend still to this day, she said, we knew you never belonged. We knew you was here, but we knew you weren't going to stay here that long. And I was like, really? You saw that in me? And she was like, yeah, we saw that in you. We knew you were different. And so you might as well say God had already placed me on a level of having more, of not living in lack, even though I was living in a community where if you did not have it, this is your temporary stopping spot before he carries you to where he wants you to go. So this particular day, we were supposed to go out for movies and a dinner. And I'm doing my normal thing as I normally do, running around paying my bills. And the vehicle that I had, I was on public assistance, and I had, back that day, they used to call them food stamps. Now we call it EBT card. So I had a little bit of that. I had cash in my glove compartment. I had money in my armrest. I had change caddy up under my passenger seat. So we're running around. I didn't really know my ex-husband as well as I knew his family member. And so I thought I knew the friend that was with me as well as I thought I did, but clearly I did not. So anyway, went around making sure all my bills was paid before I go party, hang out with him and everything. And I want to say maybe about the fourth or fifth trip, the family member said, yo, why do you keep taking the keys? It's just us in the car. And I was like, just supposed to have it, but I knew what I had. No one else knew what I had but me. And so he said, well, your girlfriend is in the back. She'll make sure nothing happens. And so again, this man met me where my life was just all over the place. And I'm going to say this again. Satan attacks your desperation. For me at that time, I was looking for love. I was looking for support. I was looking for protection. I was looking for stability. I already had 2 kids at that time because I wasn't pregnant yet. I was looking for stability to say, okay, I'm tired of running these streets. I'm ready to settle down. But I didn't know if this guy was really that guy. So I fed my monitoring and my familiar spirit that was inside this man all my hurt. Wait a minute, rewind, moving too fast. So I leave the keys in the car. I asked the young lady, was she going to have my back? And she said, yes. Again, life was life and distractions was there. So again, the fog was still in front of my face because I was still hurt over the guy that I hadn't, who just abruptly left the relationship. I'm still fighting to try to prove to my oldest daughter's dad that I really love him and hopefully he'll love me. My son's dad wasn't in my life. At that time, my oldest was like 5 and my son was about 4. And so I leave the keys in the car. So now the night's coming to an end. And so I'm checking my balances. I'm making sure I got enough to sustain me till I get paid again. Well, guys, I come back and start checking everything. And when I tell you, every dollar gone, including my food stamps, every penny of my change caddy gone. And I'm like, what happened? What happened to my money? Who stole my money? And everybody's blaming everybody. The friend is like, I don't know. But I'm like, girl, you was in the back seat with them. I know you had to be watching them, thinking she was my friend. Again, we can't call everybody our friend because everybody really is not our friend. In our heart and our mind, we think they're our friends, but they're not. So time is going on, and I'm like really pissed. So at that time, I was the only one that had a car. And when my car, I'm still checking everything. And so the family member is blaming my ex-husband. My ex-husband is blaming the family member. No, man, you know you stole her money. No, man, we know it's you. You know you a thief. And again, I'm not listening, but I should have been listening. That's why now we have to ask God to increase You hear what I say, ladies and gentlemen? Increase your discernment, increase your wisdom. Take off the fog glasses, take off the red roses or the red colored glasses. And he's like, no, man, you took it. So I'm sitting there thinking like, and it don't even matter who took my money. All y'all get my car. Even a friend, but we was at the friend's house, my so-called friend, my associate. And so he was like, what you mean? I said, everybody get out my car because my money's gone. I got to take care of my kids because I've always been an independent woman. And the reason why I was like that, because I watched my mom and how she solely relied on the men that were in her life. And I said, I would never be that woman. I was super independent, not knowing my super independence was attracting the wrong men. Ladies, you hear what I said? Men, even with men, your super independence, you got to go get an attitude. You got that personality. You a hustler. You do what you need to do to pay your bills, to make your money, to do what you need to do to sustain your life. And so after I put them out, my car, I'm still like, what happened to my money, guys? This is all I have. I don't know what happened to my money. And I'm really looking at my ex-husband at this time. But again, the devil is really deceitful. So time go by. The family member called, check on me. And he said, well, I'm going to bring him with me. And I'm like, okay, I just need to know who took my money. So he's like, again, I don't know. I don't know who took your money. I think it was him. But again, I'm inviting the two thieves. I believe it was both of them. But mainly the main thief back into my home. And then stole everything from me, guys. When I tell you, Satan will use your desperation to attack you. He will use your weakness. He will use your naivety. He will use your gullibleness. And that was me in my 20s. So I bring them back to the house. They try to take my mind off of it. Next thing you know, my ex-husband's the only one left in the house because the cousin had to go somewhere. The family had to go somewhere. So I'm like, oh, here we go again. All I'm doing is looking for love. I've been through this. Like I'm talking. As my daddy said, boo-boo, you talk too much. As my mom said, baby, yeah, you was telling a lot. As my baby said, yeah. And a lot of people told me, you talk a lot. You do tell too much. And sometimes I tell more than I should. But this night, I'm telling this guy about, I got 2 kids by a man. One never seen him. And the other one, he don't want my daughter. He's been in and out of her life. She was born. I'm telling him how my family is, how everything is just, all thing I'm looking for love. I'm a good woman. I will take care of you. Hear the word I said. I'll take care of you. I just want you to take care of me. I came from a toxic family. My mom don't love me. I don't believe. My dad wasn't in my life at that time. I'm still trying to learn who I am. I've been in my own self. I was 16. Like I'm feeding my demonic spirit. Everything. He eating it up. Remember all this then one night. Next morning, this man never leaves. So I'm thinking, I'm thinking this man never leaves. Boy, I must be good. Right? Wrong. That's when Satan say, okay, she really don't see who I am. Next day, we figure out what we're going to figure out what was going on. I want to tell you within 30 days. So that next day, I lost my job. My car broke down because I was on my way to Bluebell, Pennsylvania. And at that time, SEPTA wasn't really going that far out to the suburbs. And I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get my car back. What happened? How did I lose my job? And within the same 30 days, the red flags was red flagging. And I know now what I should have known then. God was telling me, I kept you independent for a reason. I kept you away from these men for a reason. Because getting in relationships, a lot of men will say, oh, I would love to be with you, but I'm not a good guy, and you're such a sweet girl, and I'm going to take advantage of you. And I would say, well, I'll change. No, don't ever change. Just that it won't work out for you and I. Well, my ex-husband, he was eating it all up. So lose my job, car breaks down on the blue route. At that time, we call it 476 now, but it was a blue route back in the day before it became 476. And I'm sitting in this house with in this bed, laying in this bed with this man in my home. And I'm looking at him like, okay, so I know you're going to help me. And not knowing that he had just got out of jail. Not paying attention like he told me. So wait, let me rewind back a little bit further. How I ended up even getting with this man. So The friends, you hear what I say? Everybody's not your friend. Was saying, girl, maybe you need to get opposite attract. You know, you're looking for too much in a man. You want a guy to be like this. You want a guy to be like that. Maybe you need to get with a man opposite. And ladies and men, I'm going to tell you the same thing. We actually do get with men that are just like our dads. Did you hear the words that are coming out of my mouth? Whether it's the good side of your dad or the bad side of your dad. Most of the men that I got with, minus my oldest daughter's dad and my youngest daughter's dad, showed me, now after I finally met my dad, because remember, I didn't meet my dad till I was 21, the good and the bad. It's just that with my oldest daughter's dad, I was so independent and I wasn't really chasing them down. But when I got my youngest daughter's dad, he was like, oh, that's what she need. That's what she want. I'll tell her a lie. I'll tell her a story. I'll tell her what she need to hear, what she want to know, to let her know that I got her. But all I really need is a place to live. Because when he met me, we gets a little closer, and he tells me that he was staying with his sister because he just got out of jail. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I was big back in the day. I didn't mess with nobody if you went to jail. If you was in jail, you went to jail, whatever you went for. Because I was with a guy one time, and him and I was together, and he ended up going to jail for something inappropriate. And I told his family members, I was like, look, sorry he went there. I'm praying for him, but we can't last. And then I went to go see him. I didn't want to see him, but I went to go see him. And I was like, this is not me. This is not, ladies, men. If you know that's not what you're into, don't backtrack on what you believe in. Your girl Morgan was doing that. I'm backtracking on stuff. And everybody's like, well, you need somebody different. Maybe you need a man who's opposite of you. Well, the next morning, till you lose the job, lose the car, all my money just got stolen the night before between both of them, or if not one of them, or him and his family member. So I'm like, what's going on? I'm destitute, trying to figure out my life. How is this happening? Still trying to be independent though, because I was like, I don't know if this guy is really supposed to be the guy for me. Because I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I was not in love with him. You have to keep that there, put a pin there. I was not in love with him. I had to force myself to be in love with him. And as my big sis say, she said, if something feels uneasy with you, that means God is telling you this is not for you. You shouldn't do this. But back then, you know, I was in my 20s. I ain't know no better. Didn't have great guidance, didn't have great wisdom. So 30 days, lost my money. 30 days, lost my job. 30 days, my car broke down. Try to get the car back home. And then you know what this man was doing the entire time? Only thing he was doing was just soothing my woes. He wouldn't get a job. Told me he was in jail. He was just got out. He was trying to get himself together. And I'm still like, okay, well, I'm going to give you a chance. And so I was one of them women, like, I stand by my man. So I thought he was my man. And in 30 days, I still was having guys coming through. Oh, yes, I'm telling you my truth. Still was being with other guys, you know, because I didn't know if this is a real thing. Until I went to the doctor, because every time I met somebody new, I always made sure I go to the doctor to get myself checked out. And so when I did this, the nurse said, let's do a pregnancy test. Oh, just a PSA. If you're joining me, welcome. Tonight, I'm sharing my testimony of surviving 17 years of domestic violence and how God brought healing and purpose into my life with my ex-husband. And so the nurse says, as I told you, shared the testimony about it before, she said, well, let's do a pregnancy test as well. And I was like, well, you can do that because, you know, my youngest is 4, my oldest is 5. I ain't had no kids. You ain't got to worry about that. Well, God had jokes. She comes back out and tells me that I'm pregnant. Now, I had did a couple of abortions prior to that before I knew that was wrong. And I thank God. I thank him every day. I thank the Lord every day for not judging me for what I did not know. And so she tells me I'm pregnant, and I'm like, oh, man. And I was like, I'm not going to tell this guy. I said, because I don't think this guy's the one. And she was like, well, let's just see. And I was like, well, maybe I should get rid of her. And she said, no, don't do that. Just go back and tell him. Mind you, I already done fed my familiar and monitor spirit in this man, telling him about my lack of love. Remember, Satan attacks your desperation, my lack of protection, my lack of support, my lack of supporting family, my lack of family who really don't love me, don't know how to love me, and I'll try to do the best I can. So when I go home and tell him I'm pregnant, as most men say, oh, you got me pregnant, I ain't think I can get nobody pregnant. And again, I'm like, oh, really? I heard that before, but okay, yeah, I'm pregnant. He's actually happy. And then Satan said, got her. Because what I was looking for, a man to be there for not just me, but for my children and to accept them. But wait, hold up. Now I'm telling him about my daughter's father, my oldest daughter's father, how I really love him. I wanted us to be together. Believe it or not, before I met you, he brought me to his mom's house and we was chilling in the basement. And he asked me, he wanted to be with me. And I didn't believe him. I said, oh, you just want to do that so you can get with me. You can get that regardless of, because we had a kid together. I knew he wasn't serious because he was out in them streets. I knew I was out in those streets. But for whatever reason, my ex-husband was seen to be intimidated by this man who was not even in my life. He was in and out. So during the relationship, I want to say that maybe the first 6 months, again, more red flags. That next month, now because he said, okay, you need to look in your book and call all the guys and tell them you with somebody. And I was like, first of all, I have no book. I just talk to them when I see them and tell them. I said, you sure you want to be with me? He was like, yeah, I want to be with you. So now I'm pregnant. And I want to say a couple months into the relationship, I had to go get my mom down south. So I was able to finally bring my car back. Again, he never helped do anything. And again, the red flags is red flagging, guys. Listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth. When it don't smell right, when it don't look right, when it's not acting right, when it's not speaking right, it's not right. Don't be like me, Morgan, and be like, oh, well, I'll put that red flag in my pocket because I think I could change him like I thought I could change my mom and my dad. Because even when we got together, he would always say, if it wasn't for you, I'll be back in jail. If it wasn't for you, I'll be doing this, thinking this man loves me. So in the 30 days to 60 days, I've got, like, life was moving fast. Life has always been moving fast for me. I'm big, pregnant, not that big, but big enough. And I had to go get my mom from down south. So I had another guy that I was messing with. He owned a car dealership. And so I asked him, can he help me go get my mom? Because my mom was unhappy being with her family, and I was going to go get my mom and bring her back to Philly. And so he was like, yeah, I got you. And so he got me a car that was just like the car I had. So he's like, well, as long as you don't drive like you ain't got no sense, the car looks just alike. The VIN number may be a little different, but they won't know. So I said, well, I'm not going to stay that long. I'm just going to get my mom and coming back. Tell you the rest of that story later. So anyway, the guy gives me that car. I bring my car back. So now I got both cars. And so I'm nervous. Remember, God is not about a God of confusion. He's not a God of chaos. So I'm nervous, like, oh my goodness, I don't know. I really don't want to get caught with this. Okay. So I would switch the tags. So this particular day, I said, don't use my car. I said, because I don't switch the tags. He didn't listen. He jumps in my car. Next thing you know, that's when we had Star 69 and we had call ID. I went outside or something. I come back in. I see I have a missed call. And I'm like, let me start 69, see who it was. And it's from the Philadelphia Police Department. I was like, what's happening? What's going on? But where's the kids? Where's he? And I called the number back and he said, is your name so-and-so? And I said, yes, this is me. And I said, what's going on? What happened? And he said, well, we have your son. My son, what happened to my son? He said, do you know this guy? And I said, yeah, that's my daughter's dad, my child's dad. What's going on? He said, well, we have him. He violated probation. You're pregnant? And I said, yes, I'm pregnant. He says, well, we have your son, but he's in jail. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got to come get my son. He said, no, don't worry about it. We'll bring him to you. Again, another red flag. Because I'm thinking the devil's telling me I need to date opposite. And then that was not, remember, God is not a God of confusion. God is not a God of lies. God is not a God of chaos. God is not a God of disorder. God is not a God of dysfunction. God is not a God of toxicity. So I'm having all these red flags. Again, I'm thinking this little old heart of mine, one day it's going to change my mom and my dad, and it's going to change this man, because I thought you can change a person. Learned that the hard way. You can't change nobody. Listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth. So time going on, the man brings my baby back, and he calls me, tells me what happened. Can you help me? And so in the beginning part of this relationship, he wanted me to call him daddy, and he wanted to call me mommy. And I always thought that was strange. And I was like, well, that's what senior citizens do when they old. And we was in our 20s. And so we would be out and he would say it, and sometimes I wouldn't say it. And I remember the first time I met his mom, and we at her house, and he's saying it, and I wouldn't respond. And she was like, yeah, baby. And he's like, Mom, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to her. And everybody's looking at me, and I was like, again, I've always been obedient. I tried to be, and a submissive woman. Whether I was your girlfriend, whether we was friends, with whatever, whether I'm your husband, I'm your wife, and you my husband, I'm going to listen to you. Whether you're my mom or my dad, even if I know you're wrong, I'm going to tell you you're wrong, but I'm going to still try to be obedient. So remember, time going by. So now this is 6 months in. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get another job. He said, don't worry about it. Stay home. Hey, wait a minute, rewind. So he calls me, tell what happened. So me being the woman I am, and I've been this way with anybody. It didn't even have to be in a relationship. If you my sis, if you my brother, if you my family member, and I truly got a heart for you, and I love you, I'm looking out for you. I got your back. I'm your ride or die. Like, you don't even know. A true friend in Morgan is a true friend indeed. And so I help him get out. And so we go to court, and the judge says, is so-and-so here? And so I stood up, my belly all big, and she says, did you write this letter? Because I took the letter to the judge, I took the letter to his PO, I took the letter to the defense attorney. Like, I'm sending letters to everybody, letting them know I'm thinking he's a changed man. So who else that's messing with while I'm pregnant? But I'm still holding on to him because I'm like, well, he's the first guy to all of my kids that actually wanted my child, and not rejecting them and not rejecting me, not knowing it came with a cost. Because I told you I loved him, but I had to make myself be in love with him. So the judge says, I got your letter. She said, but the next time, I don't care if Jesus himself comes down, you going back to jail and you're going to serve all of your time. And I'm looking at him, and I kept asking him, what did you go to jail for? What did you do? Did you murder somebody or something? And so he said he stole something else. He would never tell me the truth, and I never really looked it up. But again, he the only man that wants me, so I think. He the only man that loved me, so I think. So I go down south to try to get my mom. That did not work out because her mom, who was a witch, put witchcraft on me, put roots on me. And I ended up in a situation where I had to be there longer than I was supposed to. I ended up in jail for a brief moment. So I'm thinking he's going to help me. And I told him, I said, look, even if you don't want to be with me, you can leave my kids with my neighbor. She was like a mom to me, slash an aunt, slash a big sis to me. She was like an all-in-one. She was like the older lady in the project, Miss Martha. Don't know if she's still around or not. And so I was like, leave my kids with them, and I'll figure out a way to get my kids. And at that time, I had just met my cousin on my mom's dad's side. And so she was helping me. So she was helping me. And another guy that I used to date, who was a police officer, he was helping me. My ex-husband wasn't really doing much at that time. I guess he was just like, well, she let me stay here. Because he was like, no, don't worry about it. I got you. I'll take care of your kids. I'll make sure they get their hair done. Your daughter get her hair done. They go to school. Remember, I've been feeding them everything. Not nobody really loving my kids. My family not loving my kids. My family not loving me. He eating it all up. So I stayed there for about 30 days, but it felt like 3 years. Come back home. And so now we moved. I don't have my baby. And now we had to move from the apartment side off Arch Street homes on 56 and Arch to the house side because I had a third child. And then we lived on Bodger Street. So we're on Bodger Street. Now I'm seeing the real him. So prior to me seeing the real him, all I thought was, because while he came home, he got grace through me because the judge sent him home on house arrest. And so technically, if you're living in public housing, you're not supposed to have a felon in your home. Well, I got grace because he was my child's dad. So I was taking care of him, buying him his, alcoholic stuff, buying him, his cigarettes, buying him. So I thought it was just marijuana, but it was not. And I remember him telling me a story about he did turbos. And I said, what is that? And he explained that to me. And I said, well, do you still do it now? He said, no. Again, red flags. Hey, sis. Hey, sis. So red flags. So I'm like, share the live, sis, with anybody that you can tell. You can share the live with them so they can hear this testimony. This is for all of us, women and men. This message is not just for women. So I'm buying him everything he wanted. I'm getting him. And again, I'm learning and I learned and I'm learning. I got that heart from my mom and my dad. So anything he needed, he wanted. So all of a sudden now the people in the neighborhood, they like, yo, you with this guy? And I'm like, yeah, I'm with him. But instead of them telling me, they like, he ain't good for you, he ain't good for you. The same friend who I thought was my friend, we were getting arguments all the time. And I'm like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And so again, I'm naive, I'm gullible. I'm like, well, I think I'm supposed to be with this man. So the first time he hits me, we was on the house side. And again, I remember I shared this part of the testimony in another message. We were on the house side and he said something and he was like, I should punch in your face. And I was like, do it. You don't know who you're talking to. Punch me. Well, guys, ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, he punched me in my face. And so when he punched me, I was like, did this man, I said another word, punch me in my face. So now I got to go to work with a black eye. I got to figure out how to cover this. So I called my friend. She come over. She said, I said, I don't even know. I can't believe he did it. And she was like, girl, you should leave him. And I was like, no, I'm going to give him another chance. This is how the generational cycle, the generational curse in our lives begin. Because when that man punched me in my face, he should have been gone. When the discernment was there, when he stole my money the first day that we got together, he should have been gone. But again, I had rose-colored glasses over my face, and I'm telling him, I'm feeding my demonic, my familiar, my mind, and the spirit of me not having no family, me not having no love. I'm got low self-esteem, self-value. And I didn't have this until I got with him. Like, I'm like, you see this confidence you see now? I was like this back in the 90s. I was getting guys. Even when I had eczema and my skin was kind of bad, I was still bullying guys. Like, you see this sexiness you see now? I was like that then. So when he punched me in my face and my friend said I should leave him, I still held on to him. Think about your grandma. Think about your grandfathers. Think about your aunts, your uncles, your cousins, who after you go through an abusive situation, instead of you walking away, what do? You stay and you stay longer. And so when you stay long, the devil say, oh, I did that. She was talking all that tough stuff. He was talking all that tough stuff. And they still here. They ain't going nowhere. And they keep speaking those words. And you keep saying, yeah, girl, I can't leave him. And you speaking those words, the power of our words. That's my sis say, watch what you say. And we're saying, I ain't gonna never get nobody. I can't believe how I got in this relationship. But I think he loved me. Because remember, I told you I was not in love with him. I only loved him because we had a child together. And he was the only one of my 3 kids' dads that hung around. So he punches me in my face. That situation is over. So then I tell him about my dad. He used to be out in them streets. My dad was a hustler. My dad was this. And I knew a guy that was like this. And he said, okay. And this is right when I started working for the limousine company. Shout out to King Limousine. So I work for the limousine company. And I'm making money. Like every week, I'm making money. So he says, well, listen, if you give me $350 to $500, I'm going to make that money and we're going to start paying these bills. Because now I'm like, okay, now we are 2 to 3 years into this relationship. No, a year into the relationship. We done moved. Not even a year, maybe 6 months, 9 months. My youngest was about 6 months, maybe 9 months, almost a year. And now we're on the house side. And now I need help because I'm having to pay more money living in the projects. Again, my heart goes out to the families and some of the friends that still hang out in the projects that I used to live at Arch Homes, 55th and Vine Street, 56th Arch Street, Roger Street. Your girl Morgan shouting out to y'all. God got y'all. So anyway, he says he's going to do that. So I'm giving him money, guys, every week. Guess how much I'm getting back? $50 here. $75 here. I'm asking other guys that be on the corner and I'm telling them, and the guys is like, yo, why you still with him? And I'm like, well, you know, he my child's dad and I'm trying to make it. And they like, no, man, you should be with me. And I'm like, well, no, I don't want to be with you neither because I done got with this guy. I'm like, look, So anyway, every week, nothing to coming back in the house. Now we struggling in the projects. And I'm not supposed to be struggling in the projects. Because before I met this man, I was making money. Then all of a sudden, my money started disappearing. Remember, I told you, he did steal my money when we first met. He just never owned up to it. He did own up to it later on down in our relationship. So my money's disappearing. I wonder where my money at. And he said, oh, we be doing what we doing, woozy why. You probably forgot. No, forget where I put my money at. Not realizing then what he was doing then, he was still doing the entire relationship. So money not being made. Now he's using his own products that he's trying to use to sell to make the money. And I'm like, what's going on? And then he started putting inappropriate things in it to stretch it. And I'm like, look, I don't even know what's going on. I think you need to stop this. I think you need to get a regular job. Every time he would get a regular job, he would say, oh, my supervisor made me mad. So I punched him in his face. I was like, you punched the supervisor in the face. Well, why would you do that? Now what you gonna do? Well, don't worry about it. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm like, yo, dude, I need help. Remember, I didn't meet my dad till I was 21. And we weren't even married yet. So this is like 1, 2, 3 years into this relationship. And I'm still like, okay, I'm gonna still stay with him though, because I don't want to be like my mom. I don't want to be like my dad or my aunts or my uncles who got all these kids by all these different men. So I'm holding on to this man. I'm standing 10 toes down. I'm gonna give him chance. And your girl Morgan was doing that. Even the guys in the neighborhood was going to get him. And I'm like, no. They was like, yo, he ain't a good dude for you. And I'm like, yes, he is. No, we're going to get him for you. I'm like, no, you can't do that. Because if you do that, I got to explain to my daughter why I let these guys mess with him or hurt him or harm him. No, I'm not into that. They was like, man, you could do better. Even a girl who was my friend, we were always getting arguments, but she would never, again, all these people telling me these things, but they're not telling me why, because I'm a why person. I'm a why, how, what, when, where. I need to ask additional questions. And so I'm asking people why. Nobody's not telling me why, because they said, well, we see you have his back, so we don't know if we're telling you. So that goes on for about 3 months. Money not being made. I'm giving him all this money not being made, struggling. And I'm like, I don't want to get put out of the project, but I did want to leave because I used to always say, I'm in this house side of this house. But one day I'm gonna live in one of those white houses in front of me. I'm gonna own my house. God, you having jokes because 7 years. I've been in the house that I own for about 7 years. It wasn't in Philly. It wasn't when I was living in Georgia. It ended up being where I'm at now. So anyway, let me go back into the story. So I'm like wondering why we struggling. Why this man can't keep a job every time he would get a job, and he getting good jobs. I'm even helping him get jobs. I'm helping them get jobs. You hear the words that are coming out of my mouth. Like I'm helping them get jobs. Like I'm like my mom, my dad. I'm not a bum. I'm not a slouch. I'm a go-getter. I'm a hustler. And so I'm like, I can't understand why this man the money's not being made. We struggling. People cussing me out, fussing me out, saying you deserve better, but nobody's telling. So now I'm finally trying to reconnect with my mom again, telling her what's going on. She's not hearing me because she got her own journey of trauma. She's fighting spirits with mental health issues. I didn't meet my dad till about 21, but I'm still learning him. So I'm like, I don't know what's going on. How did I meet this man? What's going on? So now we're like 7 years into this relationship of not having money all the time, my money being stolen all the time. Then when he would get in an argument, he would always up in my face. Oh, at least even though my mom would never let me live with me, let me live with her. And my dad, me and him, we fight all the time. At least my parents better than yours. That's what mental abuse, right? That at least my parents is better than yours. Your mom don't love you, she crazy. Your daddy don't love you, he crazy. Your mom let this happen to you. Like he dogging my parents, and I'm like, yo, listen, that's still my parents. Like I'm one of those. I'm honoring. The word says, honor thy mother and father, or the days on the earth may be long, shall be long. It's not guaranteed. Hear the words that are coming out of my mouth. Your life on this earth, even if you do not honor your mother and father, it may not be easy because you're not honoring your mother and father. So anyway, he hated my mom. So it's like 7 years into this. So now we having to move out of these projects. And I'm like, oh, I didn't want us to go this way, but I go. So I said, well, I'm going to move into a house. I like houses. I want to stay in a house. Because one day I'm going to own a house. Every place that we lived at, we kept having to move because I'm struggling. The man's stealing from me. The man, I learned later, is abusing drugs, but I did not know. Listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth. Every time we get into it, we arguing. He belittled me about my mom, my dad, my family ain't no good. And I'm like, that's not fair. You shouldn't be talking to me like that. And then he'll say, I love you. And so to make me feel better, he'll either get me a drink or get me a Kit Kat because I like Kit Kats, I like chocolate. Or he'll go and he'll buy some stupid thing to make, because it didn't take much. It doesn't take much to the little things. I'm thinking is from your heart. And he will always say he loved me. And I'm like, well, if you love me, I would hate to see how you show somebody you hate, because everything you keep doing, you keep belittling me. You keep talking about my family. You keep talking about my mom and my dad. And then when I finally we moved to another side of town. We get put out of another place. And we're in Southwest Philly at this time. And I'm working for the limousine company, making money, but wondering where my money going, paying the bills, but not able to pay the bills because every time I try to make the money disappearing. So again, now I know it was wrong. Again, I'm sharing with you what I did myself. I started cheating on him, and I'm cheating on him, thinking that's going to change him. And I'm coming home, and I told him I cheated on him. Like, look, I just want you to know there's other men that want me. Because you clearly don't want me. You keep fumbling me. You keep hurting me. You cannot take care of our family. And I wasn't really telling his mom. And then every time we would go through something, he would always call his mom. And I'm like, stop calling your mom. Him and his dad would always get into it. They always fighting. And I'm like, what's going on? But he would always make me feel less than, because he would say, my family ain't this. Sometimes we would go to family functions or friend gatherings, and we would be out, and I'm happy and lovey-dovey with everybody. And conveniently, he would always cause an argument. And then once he start the fire, he go in the corner and sit. And now I'm crying. I'm weeping Prophet Jeremiah over there crying. And boy, why is he hurting me? What's going on, man? Don't worry about him. Yo, man, won't you leave her alone? She happy. Yeah, that's the problem. Now, again, I'm hearing all these things, but I'm not hearing all these things because I had a lot of distractions. You're still in. I'm trying to keep up with my family, trying to still take care of my kids. Now I got 3 kids by 3 different men. I'm with this man. This man's not helping me pay no bills. Now I'm learning this man may be on something else, but I'm not knowing what he's on, because all I'm thinking he's on doing alcohol and marijuana. And everybody said, no, it does not make you like that. He got to be on something else. I'm like, no, I don't know. I just know I come in the house. The house smells weird sometimes, but I'm not knowing. Again, learning these lessons, y'all. 17 years of domestic violence, but God. 17 years of domestic violence, but God had other plans. So here we are. We move. I really lose that place. He ended up going back to his mom's house. His dad's house. Remember, I told you his mom said he could never stay with her. He go back to his dad's house. I go stay wherever I was staying at. And so I go to my church. And I end up, the guy that I was messing with in the limousine company, he telling all me and the 2 other women that we all his wives. And I really wasn't even thinking about getting married at all at that time. But I was thinking about getting married because I'm like, I need some stability. I done been with this man now 7 years, and we know 7 is complete. And God was telling me then, you done lost the place. Get out of here. I'm giving you an out. And every time Father would give me an out, your girl Morgan will run back in. Oh, I think I should be with him. I don't know. We got a kid together. Remember, we're learning these generational curses. We're learning these cycles. We're learning these journeys from where? Our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents. Somewhere, somebody down the line got to break this curse, this cycle. So I take them back. So I tell the pastor what happened. Well, the pastor ended up bringing me in because I didn't know I ended up in this situation. And I tell him what's going on with this man. He's not paying no bills. He's not really being a provider like I need, because men's role are to be providers, performers, and protectors. And believe it or not, he really was not doing a lot of that except protecting me from my own parents. I was thinking he was. No, not really nobody else. So so the pastor said, well, you might as well marry him because nobody else wants you. I said, what? He said, you might as well marry him because nobody else is going to want you. So I go home. Well, he was staying with his dad, and we talk, and he mad about me cheating on him and that. And I'm like, well, I was telling you that so you can get better, because I can't understand what's going on, why we can't get ourselves together, why I keep losing my places. I've never been like this until I got you. Again, God will shake up your world to get your attention. But if you got that fog, if you got so many life distractions, if you're hearing Satan and you're thinking it's God, and you're hearing God and you're thinking it's Satan, or you're hearing yourself and you're thinking it's both God, or you thinking it's Satan, and he's like, no, I also gave you discernment as well. I also gave you wisdom as well. I also give you clarity as well. I'm telling you, and you're not listening, because again, that low self-esteem and low self-value was like sometimes creeping in, because he would always talk about how bad my mom and my dad was. He despised my mom and my dad. because of what they did to me and what they allowed to happen to me. But not realizing and thinking, but you do, you doing the same thing. You just doing it a different way. So we get married in 2003, and I'm thinking, okay, he's gonna change. Right? Wrong. We get married around Marches of 2003. We living now on the northeast side of Philly. Rent about to go up from like $650 to like $750. I'm telling him again, I need help. I need help because my money keeps disappearing. I think it's you stealing it. He ended up getting me in a situation with his sister where my bank account ended up getting messed up. Like I end up being a part of so much toxicity. I end up being a part of so much negativity. And then every time I would go to his mom to tell her to teach him, yes, sis, I told you this is going to be real and raw. I'm I'm going to these people for help. Now I'm going back to my mom and I'm telling my mom what's going on. And I'm finally telling her how to go stay with her. But I promised myself for when I left on my own at 16, because I've been on my own since I was 16 because of my child abuse, because of my mental emotional abuse from my own mother and the lifestyle that we was living in. I'm never going to go back to my mom's house. So I having to go back to my mom's house and telling her, I'm asking her again, what's going on? So we end up leaving. I left her house abruptly because that cycle that chapter did not work out well. We about to get married. No, we actually didn't get married yet. We in the rooming house because we couldn't move to another place yet till God gave me grace. Through my entire chapter in my journey, y'all, I just want y'all to know, God kept giving me grace because he said, my child shit. Every time I keep telling her something to tell her to let the man go, to walk away from this relationship because his relationship is not happy for her, she keeps running back to him or she keeps taking them back. And I keep sending her the flags. I keep sending the red flags on the plate and she keeps taking them back. So we in the rooming house and all of a sudden, not once, not twice, I get called DHS on me. And at that time, my kid's godmom at the time, we're no longer friends, the longest friendship I ever had, but our season came to it. And I couldn't ask her because she worked for DHS. And I said, sis, who was it? And my ex-husband even said, because remember, we all have gifts and it comes out of repentance. It's just up to us how we use our gifts and what we use our gifts for. And he said, it was your mom. It was your mom. I said, hey, my mom. Don't be saying it because you don't like my mom. So the lady comes to the rooming house. We in this big old 3-story house. Like a brownstone, like in Brooklyn, but it was like in a nice side of University of Pennsylvania. University side of Pennsylvania. Philly, University side of Philly in the college community area of Southwest Philly. So the lady said, I said, who is it? Can you tell me? She said, no. And one of the guys that was in the room house with us, I had put my furniture in there. We cooking meals. We having family gatherings. We making Thanksgiving meal. He was Jamaican. He making his food. I'm making my food. I'm putting the dishes back in there. Out of my stuff out of storage. And so she said, ma'am, I'll just tell you this. If we get another call, we won't come. And I'm like, who would do that to my kids? Because now my kids being asked questions at school. My kids is being asked questions in the neighborhood. The neighborhood is asking questions about my children. And I lived at that time. It was from the predominantly white neighborhood, Caucasian neighborhood. There was a couple of black folks up in there, but it was not really, it was like a nice neighborhood, but it was a rooming house in that neighborhood. So I'm wondering who it was. So now he brings this ring to me. He didn't even propose to me the right way, which I should have known again. That was not the right way, or even give me the ring the right way. So we get married again. I'm fast forward. I'm moving too fast, but I'm going back. You catching up. Please catch up. So we get married. We move. No, before we get married, we end up moving to the northeast side. So we moved to the northeast side. Rent about to go up. It was $650 for about 2 years, maybe or so. And then the rent about to go up like $750 at that time. And I'm like, I need help. I'm telling them again, I need help. And so, I said, as your wife now, we done got married by then. How can I help you? And he said, well, I got a record up here and I ain't gonna never be able to get no good job. But you did. He did, y'all. Listen to the words that's coming out of my mouth. This man had great jobs. And every great job he had, he purposely found a way to lose it because he knew your girl Morgan, she said she take care of herself. She an independent woman. She gonna take care of her man. And he like, well, dang, every time I lose a job, she don't never ask me for nothing. So I was already selling him and showing him who I was. I was not expecting anything better out of him. So because I was not expecting anything better out of him, he was never going to give me better. And again, we learned this from watching our parents. A lot of our moms were in abusive relationships because we didn't know our worth. We didn't know our value. And we was giving the men what we was looking for. Hey, I'm independent. I'll take care of myself. I don't need no man. Only thing I need a man for is what he got between his legs. I don't need no woman. I don't need no woman to do this for me. She don't need to give me this. We speak the words out of our mouth of what relationships we're going to choose. And then also it's attached to our generational curse and cycles of our bloodline. So he says, well, maybe we need to move. And I said, okay. And every year we kept trying to move. I would actually, y'all, don't even judge me, y'all. Every year when I would get my income tax money, I would give him half of my money. Yeah, y'all. He wasn't even working. Couldn't even keep a job. Like the whole time. Like even after we got married. So even when I was filing as single, the IRS was like, yeah, I already know who she with. And he ain't really been working since she been with her. But anyway, I digress. And I remember somebody said to me one time, oh, you should have claimed him on your taxes. For what? He's an adult. I only claim my kids on the taxes. So anyway, rewind, fast forward. So I say I'm moving down south. Did not really want to move down south after what I went through when I went down there to get my mom. But by God's grace, I was able to go back down there the second time to get her and bring her back to Philly. So my thing with me and down south, we weren't friends because my family on my mom's side was mainly the ones I grew up with, but did not really learn my dad, but still learning about my dad. And so I was like, okay, my dad is moving down in this particular town in Georgia. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to go to South Carolina. So I said, well, let us take a trip there. We take a trip. The first time I ever seen this man actually sit outside on the porch. He looked like he had peace because he was always angry. He was always mad. He was always cussing me out. He was always cussing at the kids. And I'm always fussing at him like I'm talking to the kids like that. Like I can remember my youngest, she was 6 months old and she was crying and he popped her. And I said, don't do that. And he said, she's my child too. I said, no, well, she got to stop. No, that's wrong. Again, when you connect to people who are connected to dysfunction and toxicity, this is what you connect to. That's why I'm telling anybody, everybody, if you meet somebody new, learn about their bloodline, y'all. Learn about them, their past. Learn about who they was connected to before they got with you. Because you know every time you get with somebody and you sleep with them, you get soul ties and soul connections of all the other souls that they was connected to and tied to, including them mainly about their parents. Anyway, I digress. So I go down south, and so I said, okay, you know what? We move. So I'm thinking we're going to move to a better state. He going to get better, right? Wrong. Hey, wait. Before we even move, he didn't want to go. And everybody said, oh, you ain't going to never get him out of Philly. And I'm like, yes, I am. Yes, I am. He going to go with me if he want to be with me. Nah, he ain't going to never get out of Philly. So that whole day, y'all, I am in this house, me and my children and a couple of the neighbors, literally packed the entire house while this man was laying in the bed. Well, technically it wasn't a bed because I would have nice stuff and he would break it. I get a nice bed, he would break it. I would get a nice this, he would destroy it. Remember, Satan's job is to steal, kill, and destroy. So I'm like, couldn't understand. So while I'm moving the entire house and waiting for him to wake up, I'm like, I know you hear us moving. I know you hear noise being made. This man stayed in this bed the entire time. So now the house is completely empty. I asked his mom to help me get a van because my vehicle I had at the time had broke down. So she helped us get a van. And so everybody said, he ain't going to leave. So I woke him up. I said, yo, it's time for us to go. He said, what? I said, it's time for us to go. We're leaving. He said, yo, man, I thought we was going to wait till next year. No, we're leaving now. The rent's about to go from $650 to $750. You can't keep a job. You said as your wife, how can I help you? I said, we leaving. That's how I'm going to help you. And I'm going to help you help us. Because remember, he never was a provider. He never was a performer. He never was a protector as a man in this relationship. But I still was having our hope. I still kept saying, I know you're going to change one day. So before we get ready to leave, to convince him to leave, he asked me, he said, you got $20 on you? I was like, yeah, why? He's like, give me $20 and I go. Guess what, guys? I gave him $20. $20 led to 10 additional years, along with the 7 years of more hell with my ex-husband. I survived 17 years of domestic violence, but God had other plans. So I gave him $20. He jumps in the car. We get down there. We thought we had a place to stay, and we met this couple who did not know that we were Black. They were Caucasian, they were white, and they were racist. And once they realized that we were Black, they rescinded the place that we was going to get. So now we're down here. I'm with my dad. I'm thinking my dad was going to stay there. My dad says, "Oh, you down there safely, boo-boo? I'm going back to South Carolina." I was like, "No, what's going on? Daddy, I'm finally, oh, wait, rewind. Let me go back. Wait. Before I even get married, I called my dad and tell him I'm getting married. And I said, I want you to walk me down the aisle. Guys, girls, ladies, men, gentlemen, women, children. My daddy actually just did just that. He walked me down the aisle to my ex-husband. He never met him. But remember, we all have gifts and they come out of repentance. So my daddy knew who he was. Remember, I told you, we get with men that are just like our dads. My mom used to always tell me, your dad was this, your dad was that, your dad did this. And I used to always tell her, I don't care what you tell me about my dad, he's still my dad. Let me learn it for myself. But even if you're telling me bad things about him, he's still my dad. But as women, we tell our children bad things, negative things about our kids. Fathers, I don't like using the word baby daddy. I don't like using the word baby mama. We tell our children bad things about the parent that we slept with, because they wasn't that bad when you were sleeping with them. They wasn't that bad when you was doing what you was doing, how you was doing what you was doing when you got with them. But all of a sudden, when the relationship ends, now you're the worst thing ever. And so when you do that, the Satan is using you to tank. Because remember, Satan doesn't like family. The devil don't like family. He doesn't like unity. He doesn't like love. He doesn't like joy. He doesn't like peace. So she's telling me this. And so I get with him. I tell my dad, walk me down the aisle. And my dad literally walked me down the aisle to my devil, to my demon. But my dad already knew now, because I guess my mom and him kind of talked. Remember, she called DHS on me. Now my daddy done met him. And he said, "Boo-boo, let me kill him." I said, "Daddy, don't say that." Well, what's wrong with him? And he just said, "Just let me get rid of him. I was like, "No, Daddy, because then I got to explain to your granddaughter why her grandfather." Nobody's never telling me. Remember, everybody's mad at me. Nobody's telling me. I'm getting abused mentally, emotionally in this house with this man. He punched me in the eye when we first got together, still stayed with him. Again, we got to break these curses and these cycles. Women, we are setting the stage for our daughters and our sons to know that this is acceptable behavior when you get in a relationship with somebody who's either unhealed, broken, damaged, or they cannot come back from what they need to come back from, because they need to get healing. They need to get deliverance. And our children are seeing this. And I'm thinking I was hiding this from my kids, maybe that oldest one, but I clearly was not. So I get down south. We get, after my dad walked us down out, we moved down south to Georgia. Again, man, the couple denied us a place. So now I'm like, oh my gosh, I moved to this whole state. I thought I did my proper research. I thought I did my proper homework. We can't go back to Philly because I used my income tax check after I gave you your part of the money. Because remember, I was giving him my income tax checks, half of my income tax check every year, because he was my husband. And so I was like, well, I'm gonna help him out. And every time I was helping him out, he wasn't helping out no bills. This man was buying nice clothes, nice shoes. Actually, he was dressing better than me, and me every day, all day. Again, as I told you, we go to family functions, family gatherings. He looking fly than me. My kids look good, but he looking better than me. So every dime, every cent, every dollar I was giving him, he was using to make himself look fly. Anyway, so we get down south. That didn't work out. So I called my dad, tell him what happened. And the girl that he was messing with at the time, the lady he was messing with at that time, he convinced her, he actually lied to her as well, to convince her to let me stay, me and him and my kids stay there, which that didn't last very long either. I'll tell you another story, but I'll tell you about that story later, that testimony later. So we stayed with her for a brief moment. Then we ended up moving from there, and we ended up moving into, we ended up having to stay in the shelter. We ended up staying, again, this is my second time staying in the shelter, but this time I'm staying in the shelter with my husband. And I'm trying to get this picture together. Like, how am I in a shelter with a whole husband and kids? And why is this man not able to help me get us out of this situation? How did I put myself in this situation, y'all? Y'all listening to the words that are coming out of my mouth. So time is going on, and so we end up getting out of the shelter. He was on the men's side, I was on the side with the women and the children. And I'm like, Lord, it seems like I'm going backwards with this man. But again, my cloudiness, my fogginess, me not knowing my worth, my value, I'm thinking, okay, we in a new state, so maybe this is the journey I got to go on. God kept giving me outs every time, and every time He kept giving me out, I said, well, we got a family though, and I married this man. I'm trying to make it work, even though that was not the marriage that God chose. Because remember, what God puts together, who God ordains, let no man separate or divide. When God puts you together, you're not going to always have abuse. You're not going to always have toxicity unless they need healing and deliverance. You're not going to always have mental abuse, emotional abuse. You're not going to always get beat. You're not going to always get belittled. You're not going to always get torn down because you came from a toxic bloodline, but yours is not no better than mine. You're not going to always get all these things when God puts you and the person that you're meant to be together, especially if you're ready to get your healing. So we moved out of there. We ended up moving to the apartment. Then we ended up moving into another project down there because they said, oh, yeah, if you get, and I said, I don't want to move to projects. We left the projects in Philly back in the 90s and the early 2000s. I don't want to do this again. And they was like, but no, if you go do it here, you get the help you need. And I'm like, okay. So we're in this project and we about to get put out of here because this man not keeping a job, wouldn't have a job, didn't want to hold on to a job. But he out in the neighborhood causing what? Chaos. Causing what? Havoc. Causing what? Confusion. Harassing the landlord. She pulls me aside one day. She said, I know who you are and I see what you're doing, but your husband ain't working. And at least if he ain't working and he ain't trying to go to work, he needs to stop causing disturbance in the community, because if he does, I'm gonna have to put you out. And I'm like, no, don't worry about it. So God, again, remember 7 is the number of completion. So he hits the scratch off. Wasn't big and scratch off. I know God is not good. It's not about gambling. And so I'm thinking, okay, we got to move, because if we don't move, this man is going to cause me to lose his place. So we go to Philly. We do our little thing in Philly like we always did every year. We come back. We move into a place, and I end up getting approved for Section 8 in the house. But it's the house that we was in. We ended up having to move out of there because the owner of the house didn't want to get the house fixed up. But again, y'all, this man not keeping a job. Oh, wait a minute. We want. So wait a minute. He did actually get a job. He's working at Kroger at the time, and he was making $5.15 an hour minimum wage. Y'all people in the South, need y'all to get your heart and minds together and know y'all worth. Because if I work at a job that's making $5.15 an hour, and I just left up north, because back that time in 2003, I was making the same amount of money I'm making now. Back in 2003, I moved down south. My first job there, I'm making $8.50. He making $5.15 an hour. And everybody said, girl, that's a lot of money. If that's a lot of money, I hate to see what a little bit of money is. Y'all don't know y'all worth. Y'all don't know y'all worth more than this, because up north we get paid our worth. And it ain't got nothing to do with who we know. We ain't got nothing to do with the good old boy system. It ain't got nothing to do with who's your mama, who's your daddy, who's your aunt, who's your uncle. It's about you coming to work, you do your job, and you get up out of there. If you have to make some friends, you make your friends. If you don't, that's fine too. So anyway, I'm sitting there looking at crying, y'all. How did I make this decision to move to this town with this man who's supposed to be my husband? You hear what I say? Who's supposed to be my husband? And we struggling now worse now than we did when we was in Philly. So we leave out that house. We end up moving to another Section 8 house. That was a nice house, y'all. Then I started making more money. So unfortunately, I had to get off Section 8, which I wasn't going to stay in there that long anyway, because my goal, again, like it was in Philly, was to buy a house. Never worked out. Moved in Georgia, buy a house. Never worked out. So anyway, we're in Georgia. Long time, I say. It felt like forever. It felt like forever. The relationships gets worse. More money's being stolen. Not money just in, like, I would hide my money, y'all. He would find my money. I don't know how he got access to my MAC card. Y'all call it ATM. My MAC card. We call it MAC in Philadelphia, in Philly, in New York. Got a hold of my MAC card, was stealing money out of my MAC machine. And I'm still asking my mom and dad, what's wrong with him? Why is he acting like this? What's going on? My daddy just say he want to get rid of him. My mom not really telling me. So I'm just like, y'all, can y'all just help me understand what's wrong with this man? What is going on? And I'm thinking, all he doing is marijuana. And right? So here we are going into maybe 3, 4, 5 years of that relationship being in South Georgia. I done put him out twice, y'all. Twice. And kept bringing him back. Twice. Kept bringing him back. I remember one time, before I put him out that second time, I'm in the bed asleep, And the Lord opened my eyes, and I'm watching him stand over me with a pillow, and he was going to smother me. And I looked up and I said, "What are you doing?" Oh, no. I mean, I was just trying to, put the pillow behind your head to make you comfortable. Dude, I was asleep. What do you mean? No, you were trying to smother me. No, I wasn't. So that second time when I put him out, I asked him to admit, to own up to him stealing my money. And he said, well, yeah, if you would have just at least given it to me, I wouldn't have to take it. I said, but if I'm telling you, I can't give it to you. One of yours is not yours. Well, one of them is yours, the other two are not. I had kids. We had responsibilities. Kids needing things. I need to pay these bills. You can't seem to get a job, or you get a job, you lose a job. I need to still be able to sustain this house. Guys, the relationship was so bad. At one time, I had 10. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 payday loans, trying to sustain everything he was stealing from me, everything he was taking from me. And I'm like, what is going on? Anyway, every time I get a loan, he said, go get another loan. I'm saying, no, I don't think we need to. Where's my money going? So at the end of that second part of that relationship, when I put him out there again, he admitted that he was stealing from me. And I said, but you stealing from me hurt our family. No, I didn't. No, it didn't. He didn't know, because I made sure I held the house down at all times. Because I didn't want my kids seeing none of this. I didn't want my kids wondering why the lights is out, or if the lights is out, why it's taking so long to get back on, or if we're getting evicted, how is this happening? I'm trying to hold down the house because this man was not doing what he was supposed to be doing. He's still talking about me and my family. So my family ain't this. So I put him out that last time. And this time, me and my kids finally actually have an open conversation. And they tell me more stuff. I learned from my oldest. My oldest told me some of the stuff that she did, and I really, rebuked her about that, said that she was wrong. But she said, you remember how you used to always, how our younger sister will always want to get her hair done and she would mess it up? I said, yeah, my child's still like that now. She'd change her hairstyle, like, every day she get up, change her mind. She wanted a different hairstyle. And so every time she would do her hair, she would change it and want something different. And she said, well, one day you wasn't home and he asked me to do her hair. And I said, no, I'm going to wait till mommy get home. And she said he slapped her. I said, wait a minute. I said, remember I kept asking y'all because I was not like trying to be like my mom. I didn't want y'all to be with no man who would have touched my children. And remember, I told you I fed him my desperation. Remember, Satan attacks your desperation. I fed that I was abused by my mom's husbands. I fed him that I was abused by this third guy that I met at 21. I fed him and I said, I ain't gonna never get with no man who touched my kids, because a man touch my kids, he gonna have problems. And then you know what he said to me? At least I didn't touch your children. Yeah. But he did, because my daughter told me he hit her. And then my daughter tells me, well, yeah, my son says, well, you remember that time you was gone, Ma? And because he used to like to fight his dad. So he was trying to teach my son to be the same way. And so she said, no, I got involved. And I was like, you ain't gonna put your hands on my brother. We're gonna jump you. And I was like, wait a minute, but I kept asking y'all, is everything all right? And y'all all kept saying, yeah, Ma, everything's good. Is he doing anything to y'all? No, Ma, we're good. Y'all sure? Just tell him. You can tell me. I'll get rid of him. No, Ma, he's fine. But now y'all telling me all of this. And I'm like, what? Then my son said, well, Mom, we knew you was trying to hold down the house. You was trying to take care of everybody. So we just tried to figure out how to deal with him by ourselves. And everybody kept saying, you sure he's not just doing something else? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know he doing this. He acting crazy. I don't know what's going on. And every time we would get into something, he would always call his mom. And then she would mentally abuse me as well, not knowing she was doing it. She would say, well, you need to stay with him. And I said, no, without me not being disrespectful and telling her everything that he was doing. All he was telling her was how I cheated on him, how I was unfaithful to him. But I'm like, no. He needs to tell the whole story. So we're going through this journey of back and forth. So I'm thinking this is it. That demon comes knocking back on the door again. I changed. I want you back. He even starts crying. And I'm thinking he's sincere. I'm sorry I did all those things to you. I'm sorry I treated the kids the way they treated you. I want to come back home. And guess what Morgan did? Because I was still married to him. I let him come back home. And Satan said, got her again. I'm about to turn up the heat. And that's what he did. He turns up the heat. So he turns up the heat. He turns up the heat. And I'm still thinking that I'm supposed to stay with him. Because the lies that people tell you to make you believe that you need to stay in this abuse, whether it's mental, whether it's emotional, whether it's physical, even if it's sexual abuse from your spouse, from your boyfriend, from your girlfriend, it's still abuse because they are telling you these lies to make you stay in this relationship. And who kept telling me the lies? It wasn't my mom. It wasn't my dad. They was doing things to get rid of me, to get me away from her. They were just doing it the wrong way. It was who? His mom. And I'm like, and his mom was a Jehovah's Witness, and I used to tell her, wasn't down for that. Like, I didn't even know that early on in the relationship, every time he would steal from me and we would lack, he was going to his mom asking her for money. And I didn't learn it till later on. And every time he would ask for money, he said that she was telling him, well, the next time you got to come to the hall. And I said, didn't you tell your mama, I don't do Jehovah's Witness. That's not me. I don't believe in that. And then he was like, yeah, I did. Well, you got to go this time. And me being out of obedience, I will go. And I'm like, my mom was raised by a Jehovah's Witness. So I already knew what that was about. I know about those spirits that's in those people that are doing those things that they're doing. So anyway, we struggling again. Now we having to move again, y'all. So third time he comes back abruptly. My daughter now is 19. Thank you, sis. Yeah. It's too many chances. I know, right? Everybody kept saying that. Even when I was with them, they was like, girl, just kept going. I'm like, well, yeah, because, I don't want to be with no 3 kids by 3 different men. So I kept giving them chance, the chance. So my oldest is about to be 19. My son, so she had already left the house because I didn't know she was listening to the conversation that I was bringing them back. And so she told her brother, yo, mommy about to bring him back. I don't know why. We were fine. Even my youngest was like, Ma, I was fine until you brought him back. Like I was getting used to him not being in the house. And all my son would say, he was the only one that was not disrespectful to him about him. My oldest, she says a lot of negative stuff about him, even to this day, because she knows that he's the reason why her dad fake potato test my youngest daughter's dad used him for me to put him on child support, even though I didn't really believe in child support. And so to get back at me, my oldest daughter's dad faked paternity test to not just to get back at me, but also to remove his child out of my life. Again, we have to repent and ask God for forgiveness for the men that we choose to sleep with. We have to repent and ask God for forgiveness for the women we choose to sleep with, because that impacts your children one way or another in one form. So my son hears that he's about to come home. And so he said, well, Ma, I'm ready to go to college now. And I was like, wait a minute, you ain't supposed to leave until didn't you say school starts in August? No, I'm leaving now. So now it's just me, my ex-husband, brought him back. And now our daughter. He done turned up some more. Again, God gives me another flag for me to put him out. I said, what is wrong with my child? I keep giving her a chance and a chance and a chance for her to get rid of this man, and she keeps bringing him back. So y'all, I promise you, sis, chance at the chance at the chance. So I brings him back. So now we move from this side of town to the other side of town. And at that same time, God actually introduces me to the person that I'm with now in a roundabout way. And so, but I didn't know who he really was. And he didn't know who I really was. Like, God will show you who you're supposed to be with. But when your life is chaotic, your life is toxic, your life is this, your life is that, you don't see those things. And that's both ways. And if you're unhealed, if you're still broken, if you're still dealing with abuse, if you're still dealing with trauma. So I'm telling this guy, but I'm really not interested in the guy. And so we end up having to move out of this apartment that we was in. And so we end up moving to the hood again. And I didn't want to go back to the hood, but he wanted to go to the hood. So now we're in this house. So here's the plot of this whole part of this. This one, the violence, domestic violence enhances and escalates. So I bring him back, y'all, not even 3 months into the relationship. And I'm like, this man done got worse. He said he was going to get better. How did I not see this? So we're in this house, and I'm working at this company I was working at. Actually even helped him get a job at this company. And for the first time in 17 years that we were together, I never put this man's name on a lease. I never put this man's name on a bill because I knew he wasn't gonna be able to take care of it. He would never, and I didn't realize, y'all. I'm gonna tell you the rest of this after. So the guy said, well, if I get him a job here, you got to put his name on the lease and you got to put his name on the bill. And I was like, nah, man, I don't need to do that because, you know, he said, no, I know you don't want to do this. And he knew about it, the situation and journey. He said, but you got to if you wanted to get a job. And I was like, okay. So I did. So we want to say this is what, back in 2012, y'all want to say 20 because my sister passed in 12. God allows me to keep the car I had before I got the car that I have now. The people called me, I was only a month behind, and they was going to repossess my car. And they had a device that was on the car that if you don't pay, it would turn it off. But God kept giving me grace. And they was like, oh, we turned the car off. And I was like, oh, you did? Oh, okay. And I'm at the job. And so I'm at this job, and the security's protecting me. They telling me the tow truck people coming to get the car. So God gave me grace and let me keep the car so I can go to my sister's funeral. She's been gone now, 15 years, rest in peace. So he lets me keep the car. On January the 4th, 2012, I walk outside. My car is gone from my driveway. Mind you, I had already told him what they said, that they wanted their money. And I'm thinking this time he's going to finally do the right thing for the right reason. Right? Wrong. So I come in the house. He turns his back to me. He said, what did they say? I said, what do you think they said? They want their money. We in a town where we got to rely on really our own vehicle because we're not living in a city where from Philly and New York where you got 24-hour transportation. You can get on a bus. You can take a hack. You can take a dollar cab. You can take a taxi. You can take an Uber or Lyft. You can go on the train. You can go on a trolley. We got 24-hour transportation. Only reason why most people up north got a car is because they want a car. You don't really need to have a car. But we're in this town where I'm going to have to rely on somebody to take me back and forth to work because I already told you that the car got taken and I need you to help me. And as his back is still turned to me, y'all, his back still turned to me. He says, okay, I know you want me out now. This is like 6 months I'm coming back. And I was like, yeah, you think? Right. He said, okay, well, I'm going to help you get your car back. And then I'm gone. I said, perfect. That's fine. Now God is getting me closer to the person I'm with. And I'm like seeing him like we're not in a relationship. And I always had a thing is, if the relationship is coming to an end, or if we're in an argument or something, never go to bed mad. Like you're not even supposed to do that in a relationship. And I meant that. I stood on that. But I remember always telling him, if I ever ask you to get out of the bed, that means the relationship is over. And I did. I asked him to get out of the bed. And so at first he wouldn't. He said, no, I'm not getting out. You get out. So he put me out of my own bed in my own house where I was actually paying the bills at. But I was like, I digress. I'll do it. And I was. And I would always get up before our daughter would wake up. And I think one night she happened to wake up before I got up. And she was like, Mommy, why are you sleeping on the couch? You've never done that. And I was like, oh, baby, Mommy was tired. I made up some story because I didn't want her to know what was happening between her dad and I. So then I'm still waiting for this money, y'all. Still waiting for this money. So now I'm hearing him talking to somebody, one of his family members, and they said, oh, don't worry about it, son, because he's telling her lies. Like the entire relationship, he's not telling his part. He's not telling his truth, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. Like I've already told my truth, good, bad, or indifferent, which is in the book, Endurance is Victory. That's why Endurance is Victory, because I'm telling this entire truth in my story, in my testimony. I'm going to tell the good side and the bad side of the things I've done as well. So then he disrespects me, and he says, how about this? If you be intimate with me, I'll pay you. I said, what? Treat me? Oh. I was like, okay. If you want to do that, after you do that, you got to get out of my house. He said, okay. So I leave, go to work, come back. He apologized. I ain't mean to say that. Whatever. Where you leaving? I don't care about none of that. So as we're trying to wait, I'm waiting for this man to leave. I said, listen, I was trying to get my landlord to take his name off the lease. She was telling me what I need to do in the process I had to go through. And so she was helping with that. So I asked him, I said, can you take your name off the water bill? Because that's the only bill he had his name in. The lowest bill in the house. And he said, okay, but he never did. So I asked him again, take your name off the water bill. Okay, never did. So I go to the water department meet a representative. I explain to her my situation, what I'm going through, what I'm dealing with. The relationship is coming to the end. The marriage is coming to an end. So she says, okay, well, to help you out, you just pay the bill and we take his name off. And I said, perfect, no problem. So I come back home and I say, hey, so I took your name off the bill. The bill was only $82, y'all. All I asked was $40 back. He said, you took my name off the bill? I said, yeah. He said, but that's all you're getting from me. I was like, wow, okay. No worries, no problem. So I leave the house. My daughter wasn't home that day. Later on, I found out where she was at, but she wasn't home this day. So I leave the house because I'm like, I'm not arguing back and forth with this man. He about to get out of my house anyway. Because eventually he did end up start sleeping on the couch. After he got convicted. Like the Lord was convicting him. Like, you know, you was wrong, right? She paying everything. She taking care of everything, including you for all this time. You telling your mom one thing. You telling your mom that this and that. Oh, wait a minute. I'll tell you about that part of the story in a minute. But anyway, I go back. So I leave the house. I come back this night, y'all. It's pouring down rain. It's raining, as they say, cats and dogs. God was raining down on us. And so I come in the house, and now I'm sleeping in my room. He's sleeping in the living room. And so I came out the room. I said, hey, I want to go on the computer. He wouldn't go on the computer. And so I'm going to be honest with y'all. Being a little, because I was like, I'm never a messy person, and I'm never a petty person. But I was like, it's my house. It's my computer. You don't even need to be here. You should have been gone. I should never brought you back. And so I asked him, could I get on the computer? And he wouldn't get off. So I go back into the room, and I'm sitting there like, I need to get on the computer. I need to get on the computer. All of a sudden, he comes in the room with a butcher knife. And I'm like, what's going on? And he said, I should gut you like a fish. And I was like, what? And he saw it's coming. I was like, wait a minute, hold up. And he was like, I knew I should have never got with you. This is that. And I was like, you're right. And I should have never got with you. And you was this, you was that. And I was like, you're right. I said, and actually, I obviously I was good because you gave this person a child. You actually married this person. You actually allowed this person who you think so bad take care of you for 17 years. So obviously, I'm a great person. So he slaps me. And we live in the hood at this time, and we live right across the street from the police station. So I come outside, no police across the street. The neighborhood was always surrounded by cops. I run around the neighborhood trying to go find a cop to come and help me. So I tried to call his mom, and instead I called my mom. And so now she's like, oh, he's going to kill you. He's going to get rid of you. I already told you. And I'm like, I'm not listening to you because you wasn't no guidance. Daddy wasn't no guy. I don't want to talk to you because I'm going to let his mom know your son about to go back to jail. And because of what he did. So I ride all the way down. No, actually, the cop come. No, I'm sorry. Rewind. I'm moving too fast. So after he slapped me, I call the cops. Cop shows up. And so the cop is like, yo, y'all need to be in separate rooms. And I said, we were in separate rooms. I said, I was in my room. He comes in the room with the butcher knife. He slaps me. And so now he had the computer. He talking smack. And I'm thinking the cop going to take him. He said, well, sir, if I don't know any better, I'm thinking you the aggressor. And I'm like, he is. Not like, take him now. And so he said, y'all just need to go back to the separate rooms. So he's thinking, Satan is thinking the spirit is in him. Like, oh, I got away with that. I can get away with some more. Because remember, he had a record in Philly. He didn't have a record in Georgia. So go back in my room. And I said, I want to go on the computer. He would not get off. So I turned the breaker off. Again, I say I own up to mine. I turned the breaker off. If you wanted to use the computer, all you had to do was say something. And I was like, I did, but you wouldn't get off. So now I'm on the computer. He's sitting there looking at me. He called me all kind of names, saying, yeah, you was a this, you was a whore. I said, but I was a great one because you married me. You gave me a kid. You let me take care of you. And he said, I ain't gonna never meet another woman like you. I said, you're right. You won't. Because you will never meet another woman who took all that you gave me, which is not a lie. The blessing out of this is our child. The blessing out of this was my child. But you was not a good guy. You did not help provide. You not help take care of me. You not help take care of these kids. You stole from me. I even believe you stole from me from the beginning, even though you won't own up to it. But I now know the truth. But anyway, and I said, I'll never find a man like you on purpose. So now I made that devil mad. So he jumps up, and I jump up, and he punched me, and I leaned against the fireplace, And so he pulled a knife out again and said, I should just gut you. And so I don't know, nothing but the grace of God, y'all. Nothing but the grace of God. So I figured out a way to get rid of the knife. I throw the knife into my daughter's room. I run out the house, trying to find the cops again. Can't find nobody. So I run down the street, riding down. I'm driving, not running. Remember, we're in the South. Because I end up getting my car back. Oh, yeah. Let me rewind for that part. Hold on, rewind a little bit more. So I end up getting my car back, but he did not help, y'all. He never gave the money back to me getting the car. I end up having to get help from family members. And I told him this time, I said, I'm sorry, y'all. This time, I learned my lesson. I am going to put him out. I am going to get rid of him. I no longer want him anymore. Sorry, my earring just fell off. I no longer want him anymore. I learned my lesson. I am very, very sorry. I said, but I didn't know. I thought he was going to be a better man. And so I said, don't worry about y'all. He gone. So I'm riding down because what happened was when I got the car back, he looks at me like, oh, well, how'd you get the car back? And didn't really even care. As soon as I dropped the keys off, he jumps up, he grabs the keys, and he takes off in my car. That's what he's been doing all this time. Every time I got a car, he driving. Everybody's telling me, yo, your car was all over the place. Anyway, rewind, go back, moving too fast. So I run out to the police station, knocking on the door, telling what happened. So the lady comes out. And so I tell her what happened. I said, I knew I should have never brought him back. And she says, no man or woman deserves to be belittled, berated, or beaten. I said, but if I would have never brought him back this last time, she said, it does not matter. She said, you thought you were supposed to bring him back because he's your husband. And you thought he was going to give him another chance. Again, no man, no woman deserves to be beaten, belittled, or berated. And so I said, well, you probably ain't going to be able to see it because I'm dark skinned. She said, if he hits you, we'll know. She said, I got to wait for my officer to come. So the officer comes, they look. She said, we're going to go pick him up. They said they go to the house. He comes right out. He already knew what it was about. So you like, okay, Morgan, you got away, right? Anyway, I come home. I found out that he had a butcher knife he had two butcher knives. He had one butcher knife in the chair, another butcher knife up under the chair, minus the butcher knife that I had threw away in the bedroom. And he really was going to get rid of me. So we go to court, tell the judge what happens. So the judge asked him, he said, man, why you just didn't walk away? He said, I did. I said, that man a liar. He did not. It was raining like crazy that night. He did not. He said, man, why you had to put a butcher knife on her? I don't even know, man. I don't even know, Your Honor. And so the judge was going to put him in jail. So what I said, no. I know he got a ticket to go to Charleston or somewhere to be with his family. I don't even know who these people is. Let him go. All I want him to do is to have a relationship with his daughter. I said, because if you put him in there and he gets back out, he's going to come back. And I don't want him back. I don't want him back. And so he said, you know what? You don't even know what kind of woman you got. Okay. And he didn't. So he let him get out. So he gets out. He finds a library somewhere. And now he's on Facebook belittling me more, berating me more, demeaning me more, saying all these lies about me, not telling his truths, not telling things that he's done. Not only he's doing it, his sister is doing it. His family members are doing it. His cousins are doing it. And guess who's seeing all this? Our daughter. At that time, our daughter was like 16 because I let him stay long enough before I finally told him I wanted him to go, because I was thinking that for the last time for her 16th birthday, he was actually going to do something for her. Do you think he did? No. I asked my child, I said, what did he give you? She said, Ma, Daddy didn't give me anything. I said, don't worry about it. It's okay. And right after that's when I told him he had to go. So after he's belittling me, and so my daughter's seeing all this, and she said, Ma, I said, no, don't get involved in the adults' business. I said, I know the truth. I know what I did. I know what I didn't do. I know who I was, and I know who I was not. And I said, don't worry, because the truth will be revealed one day. So here was where I learned that the day I gets my clarity, I gets my confirmation that everyone knew that my ex-husband was abusing drugs except me. People in the neighborhood knew, and everybody kept saying, how do you know? So he's gone now. we're in this house that we were in. And so normally the person I am, when the chapter comes to a close, I get rid of anything and everything that belongs or reminds me of you, because those are attached to demonic spirits. Those are lingering monitored familiar spirits. And if you hold on to them, that means you're still holding to the marriage. You're still holding to the relationship. You're still holding to the connection. I didn't want anything to have anything to do with them outside of our child. That's permanent, because that was a gift from the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. That's a gift from Daddy. So I'm not doing it with her. So we in this house and had electric bill problems or whatever. And so the landlord said, so you didn't know what your husband was doing all this time? I said, no. He said, so you ain't know he was up in the attic and he duct taped the ass around because he was a big guy at that time. He said, come on, ma'am. So you really didn't know? And I was like, no. And so my baby said, what they got to do anything? He said, well, who you? He said, well, I'm her friend. Just want to know what they got to do anything. So he says, ma'am, I don't know who you was, but come back to yourself. And I was like, you don't know me. You don't. Oh, the clarity starts kicking in. I said, wait a minute. You mean tell me this man was on drugs the entire relationship? So I meet a teammate, ex-coworker of his. She tells me, she said, hey, they looking for him. Y'all, I'm trying to look for the back of my earring and it fell off. But anyway, she says, yeah, they looking for him because he was working in a place like my sister was for people who have special needs, who need help. But he was abusing the guy that he was over. And she said that they're looking for him. I said, well, he in Philly. I give you the address. And I was like, you remember that show, y'all? Who Did I Marry? I'm sitting there like, what kind of man I was with? Everybody's telling me, when God wants you to know the truth, he start revealing. He'll send whoever he needs to send to you to tell you what you need to know. People, even at my job, you must not be with him no more. I was like, no, I'm with somebody. No, we can tell because that man was dragging you down. You was out here doing this. You were trying to make sure you take care of your family. I'm like, what? I was looking at that. They said, yeah. So then the girl tells me that, I said, well, how did he get this job? Because he lost the first time because he said that he wasn't a good fit or something. She said, no, the first time he lost the job because the lady who was his supervisor, she was providing him the product. And in turn, she would use him to abuse the guy that was in the home. And I was like, what? And, I have a sister that's in one of those places. And I'm like, oh, now I'm pissed. Like, what? And she said, yeah. She said, well, she was providing him the product. But remember when he hit the guy or something, or the guy got hurt? I said, yeah. She said, well, what happened was he was mad at the guy because the guy stole something. I said, oh, really? And he's a known thief. Okay. But she was mad. He was mad at the guy for stealing something. So he used a frying pan to hit the man on top of the head. I said, what? Huh? And I'm looking at her. She was like, oh, so I said, no, all I knew was he said this. I said, wait a minute. What about the first time? She said, well, let me finish telling you that. She said, after he did that, instead of, because I remember he ran home. And I said, why are you coming home? He said, my supervisor said, I need to come. I said, no, you need to go back to the hospital. You are their case manager. You need to be with them because that guy is hurt. Not knowing that he was the one that caused the man to get hurt, y'all. Because the man had told me that he hurt his head by hitting his head on the cabinet, not knowing it was actually my ex-husband who hit the man with a frying pan on top of his head. Yeah, I still kind of get upset about that because these people are genuine diamonds in our lives that God placed, and no matter how they got here. He said, do not get rid of any of my children because they're all my children. So when we go through lives where we're aborting our children or we're murdering our children or we're letting our child get in a situation where they're getting hurt and harmed, he's not coming after the child. He's coming after you because you were the one supposed to take care of that gift that he gave you. So anyway, I said, well, how did he get the job the first time? She said, well, because she knew him and he helped her get the job the first time, but how he lost it, he came to work one day mad. And this was the only job that he actually had the longest out of all the jobs he actually had in Georgia. And he was cussing the guy out while he was on the phone with his supervisor. And so she heard this. And so he lost that job. And I was like, what? Who was I married to? She said, so you mean tell me you didn't know he was? I said, no. All I knew was he drank and he did, marijuana. I didn't know about. I was like, and I know I do drinking and it never impacted me. So no, I did not know. So as she's telling me this, I'm like, who was I married to? And the man is telling me this. And I'm like, what? What you mean he was in the attic? And I'm like, huh? Guess when the revelation finally kicked in, y'all? About 2 years ago, when I went finally back to the old neighborhood when we lived in the projects, shout out to Arch Homes in West Philly. And I talked to the young lady who still lives there. And I ended up seeing a neighbor again who now don't live in that side. He lived in the actual houses that I was living in. And he was like, yo, man, I ain't seen you in a minute. You look good. And I'm asking her, she was like, girl, we was mad at you because we was like, she deserves so much better than him. And she got his back and they want to beat him up. And you always had his back. And I said, well, sis, I always got anybody back that close to my heart. I'm going to look out for you. She was like, well, sis, everybody was mad at you because they couldn't understand how you still with this man. He really don't love you. He's stealing from you. And every time you're giving him money, he's going to use it to abuse drugs. And I'm like, what? She said, so you really didn't know? So she called the guy across the street and he like, yo, I ain't seen you in a minute. I just saw him a few weeks ago. He don't look good. And I smelled. Remember I told you it was always a smell. And I said, I remember that smell. Because I've always come home and I'm like, what is that smell? And I just started spraying the house because I'm like, it stink. He's like, yeah, man. We used to do it a lot. He said, I don't do it as much as I used to. He said, but when you were with him, he said, every time he was giving him that money, thinking that he was flipping it or whatever to bring more money in the house, he was bringing it to me. We was doing everything, sir. I mean, he was just naming off things. I'm like, what? So now it made sense why the man was always angry. Now it made sense why the man was always stealing from me. Now it made sense why he was always attacking my son and my daughter, but he would never really attack my youngest. But he was stealing from her as well. And I remember telling her that. She said, well, Mom, even if he stole from me, he gave me mine back. I said, but it doesn't matter. It wasn't right. He's your father. He was not supposed to take anything from you at all. And I'm like, oh, wow. He said, yeah, man. He said, what ended up ended our friendship was, he thought I was messing with you. I wanted you. And I was like, nah, man, we're friends. He said, but yeah, the man had been doing it, not ever since y'all been together. He had been doing it before you even met him. And I'm like, but again, why nobody's telling me? Everyone knew except me. My mom knew. My dad knew. Friends knew. Family knew. But nobody said anything to Morgan. And I'm like, wow, how was I with this man so long? How did I have so much low self-esteem, so much low self-value, low self-worth? How was I, so naive that I exposed my children to an unhealed, broken man who was not just abusing my children, my child, me, but abusing us in our home on a consistent, constant basis. So you're wondering, you're like, Morgan, why did you stay so long? Why do survivors stay long? Because that's the only thing they hold on to. Because remember, Satan attacks our desperation. At that time, he kept telling me, he the only one that's going to love me. He kept saying, if it wasn't for me, he would be back in the streets. If it wasn't for me, he would be back in jail. He would always tell me he loved me. And you know what I never got from my mom? Telling me that she loved me. I would tell her I love her all the time, but she would never tell me. I would tell other people I love them, but then they would say they would love me, but the actions wasn't matching up with the words when they tell me they love me. And so I thought I deserved to be with him. And I was holding on, not just for that, but for my child, for our children, my children, that I wanted to show in my own kind of way. I thought I was breaking the generational curse and the cycle by being with a full family with a mother and a father, because I never had a family with a mother and father. My mom was doing her own thing. My dad was doing his own thing. And because of their hurt, their brokenness, their abuse, they did not know how to teach me, but they was trying to teach me, because now I got it. Yeah, when the revelation hit, when the confirmation hit was when I gave the book to his mom. And I finally told his mom everything. And I said, every time you kept telling me to stay with him. No, I would never do that. I said, I remember I asked you, why did you not stay with his dad? And you said you knew that was not the man you wanted to be with. So you got with the man that you're with now. And I said, so why would you force me to stay with somebody less that was being the same way, which is your son, like you knew who your son was. And all she kept saying to me was, I just remember how much you take care of your sister. Yes, I remember how much you love your sister. I remember how much you're always there. And I said, what did I got to do with anything? So then the revelation hit me, y'all. She knew who her son was. And the only woman that he's ever been with was the only one, which was me, was me that taking care of him, that was keeping him clean, that was keeping him, so I thought, so she thought, off of the drugs. So that I was making sure he always had, taken care of. He was being treated like the king of the castle. He was being treated like the man, almost. So he was, he was being taken care of, because remember, he was calling me mommy and was making me call him daddy. So he was seeing, I guess, his mom in me. Remember, I told you, women, we get with men just like our mom and our dad, with our mom and our dad, just like, whether it's good or bad. Men get with women just like their mama, whether it's good or the bad. And so he saw that side in me. And all she kept saying was, I don't remember saying that. I said, you did. I said, but I want to tell you, thank you for giving me the title to the book, Endurance is Victory. She said, I still don't remember that. I said, I remember the last time when we were together and he called you about something and you got on the phone with me. And I said, make him be a man, make him be a father, make him be a provider, stop enabling him. And I kind of went off on her, and she was always kept bringing up my past about me cheating on him and this and that. And I said, that's not even the worst of it. I said, that was minor compared to what he was doing. Because that back then I wasn't telling her everything. But when I gave her my book and I said, she said, well, I don't remember any of that. She said, but even if I gave you the title, you had to provide the content. So that day when when I was trying to get her to get him to be a man, a provider, she said, Morgan, I think you need to go to counseling. I said, I don't need to go to counseling. You need to make sure he do right. I'll be fine. And so I actually did. I went to a rape crisis counselor. And so I go to a rape crisis counselor, and I'm like, whoo, I can finally spill all my hurt, all my pain, all my loss, all my burden, all my trauma, all everything. And my rape crisis counselor said, Morgan, I think you need to write a book. I said, write a book? I said, what do I do that for? She said, it's going to be your form of healing, y'all. I want to give y'all hope, because I did not have hope. Keep hope alive. I did not have hope growing up, going through those things. I'm trying to be the one breaking the generational curses. It's time for you to be the one to break the generational curses. These lies made me believe in the abuse that I was receiving, the abuse that I was experiencing. The day I chose healing over hurt was when I moved from Disgusta and I moved to North Carolina, where I'm at now, where I said, I'm gonna love me again. I'm gonna come back to me again. I'm gonna see my worth and my value again. Because after I gave her that book and I shared everything I went through with her son, the only thing she said to me, she said, I don't care what anybody says, I will still take care of him no matter what, because he's my son. And this man is 55 now. And I said, he's a grown man. So you're still I said, you're right. That's your son. You're going to continue to enable him. That's between you, him, and your family. But what you won't do, you don't have to worry about that with me and him no more. I'm going to break this with my bloodline, the bloodline that God used him to give to me and place in my life, to place in my family, to place on my bloodline, my God in heaven. To place a part of my bloodline. I'm going to break this curse, because I know my worth. I know my value. And I had to start loving me again. I had to start treating me again. I had to start knowing who I was at God, who I was in the Father, who I am in the Son, whose I am, who I belong to. Because for years, Satan kept using my brokenness. Satan kept using my vulnerability. Satan kept using my disappointments, my sadness, my abuse, my trauma, my lack of love, my lack of support, my lack of protection, my lack of anything that God promised me when he brought me to this earth. He said, Jeremiah 29:11, for I have plans to prosper you, thus saith the Lord, not to harm you, plans to give you hope in the future that I created. And on Ephesians 5:25, he said, husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself for thee. God will give you who you're supposed to be with. But when we make our own choices, decisions, and we get in these relationships and we thinking, well, God did not say that. The devil be lying all the time. Because if he puts you in a relationship with somebody, he's not going to put you in a relationship where you're constantly being hurt, where you're constantly being beaten, where you're constantly being belittled, where you're constantly being berated, where you're constantly being talked about. Because when that man was doing it then, and he's still kind of doing it now a little bit, he's doing it at the back way door by using my grandchild to attack me, because Satan don't care who he used. long as it's a willing vessel. Because at the end of our relationship, my daughter kept saying, Mom, you need to make it up with Daddy. You need to make it up. I said, baby, the relationship came to an end. I'm fine. I don't need no closure. I know who he is. I know what he is. I said, okay, just for you, baby, I would do that. And I had the last conversation with him, and I said, why? I tried to be a good woman to you. What was wrong? What did I do wrong? And he said, it wasn't you. He said, you actually was a great mom. I could never ask for a better mom than you. He said, but I was unhappy. And I said, well, your unhappiness caused you to lose your family. And then later, then it switched. And he said, because I was a warlock sent to destroy you. And I said, how'd that work out for you? The love I was looking for could only be found in God. The love I was looking for could only be found in God. When I tell you, don't end with the abuse, end with Jesus. Do you hear what I said? If there's anything I want you to remember, your scars are not your identity. Your trauma is not your future. Your past is not your purpose. God still had a plan for your life. Jeremiah 29:11. If he brought me through 17 years of domestic violence, he can walk with you through whatever you're facing today. If tonight's testimony that I share with you, my story, my journey of why endurance is victory and why I'm on this ministry, this assignment I'm on for his purpose, his plan. If my testimony encouraged you, I ask you to subscribe to Morgan Rees Life Speaker. I ask you to also check out my podcast show, Good Morning Black People, where I interview others to tell their story, to share their journey. Share this message with somebody who needs hope. Share this message with someone who needs to know, if he bring Morgan through, I know he's going to bring me through. And leave a comment. I love to know what part of my testimony spoke to your heart. Your comment may encourage someone else who may watch this later. We need each other. Y'all, you hear what I say? Nobody's ministry, nobody's assignment, nobody's calling, nobody's gift, nobody's purpose, nobody's plan is better than another. Because your gifts can help you help someone else. Your purpose, your plan, your assignment can help you help someone else. The things that we go through, the trauma, the abuse, the pain, the rejection, the abandonment, because I experienced that, because both my mom and my dad experienced that, and my ex-husband experienced that, because his mom experienced that, his dad experienced that. When are we going to get to the place, y'all, where we're going to break this generational curse? Be blessed. Have an amazing weekend. Endurance is victory.
Yo, what's up? I'm gonna kick it with mine, y'all know. Yo, Slim, can I kick it like this? Here we go. Well, it's time to make that change. People of the world today are fading. All of us have our ups and downs. You better think about it all